In a small, ancient village nestled in the mountains, where the mist hung low in the mornings and the stars glittered like diamonds in the clear night sky, lived a humble monk named Tenzin. The village was a place where time seemed to stand still, untouched by the hustle and bustle of the modern world. Here, the air was thick with the scent of pine, and the sound of the temple bell resonated through the valleys, a constant reminder of the sacredness of life. Tenzin was a quiet man, known for his deep wisdom and gentle demeanor. He spent his days tending to the temple, guiding the villagers in their spiritual practices, and meditating in the solitude of the mountains. But Tenzin was not always a monk. His journey to the mountains was a path paved with loss, sorrow, and the search for meaning in a world that often seemed cold and indifferent. Years ago, Tenzin was a successful businessman in a bustling city far from the tranquil mountains. He had everything that society deemed important: wealth, status, and power. Yet, despite his success, Tenzin felt a deep void within himself, a gnawing emptiness that no amount of money or material possessions could fill. His life was a constant chase, a relentless pursuit of more wealth, more recognition, more validation. One day, as he walked through the crowded streets of the city, lost in thought, he noticed an old woman sitting by the side of the road. She was frail, her clothes tattered, and her eyes filled with a sorrow that spoke of a lifetime of suffering. Without thinking, Tenzin approached her and offered her some money. But the old woman looked up at him and, with a voice soft yet filled with wisdom, said, "Young man, your money cannot buy peace for a troubled soul. What you seek is not in the wealth you possess, but in the silence you avoid." Her words struck Tenzin like a bolt of lightning. For days, he could not stop thinking about the old woman and what she had said. It was as if she had seen right through him, through the mask he wore and into the depths of his soul. Unable to shake the feeling, Tenzin decided to leave everything behind. He sold his business, gave away his possessions, and set out on a journey to find the peace that had eluded him for so long. His journey led him to the mountains, to the small village where he would eventually find his true calling. It was there, in the simplicity of mountain life, that Tenzin began to understand the wisdom of the old woman's words. He realized that the peace he sought was not something to be found outside of himself, but within. It was in the quiet moments, in the stillness of his mind, and in the practice of letting go. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, casting a golden glow over the village, Tenzin sat on a rock overlooking the valley. He closed his eyes and began to chant a mantra he had learned from the village elder. Lama Dorje. The mantra, simple yet profound, was a call to the divine, a prayer for clarity, wisdom, and peace. As Tenzin chanted, he felt a warmth spread through his body, a lightness in his chest as if a great weight had been lifted. The words of the mantra flowed through him like a river, cleansing him of his fears, doubts, and regrets. In that moment, Tenzin felt a deep connection to the universe, to the mountains, the sky, the earth beneath him. He realized that he was not separate from the world around him but a part of it, connected to everything and everyone. Tears welled up in his eyes as he continued to chant, not out of sadness, but out of a profound sense of love and gratitude. For the first time in his life, Tenzin felt truly alive, present, and at peace. He understood that the power of the mantra was not in the words themselves but in the intention behind them, in the surrendering of his ego and the opening of his heart. The next morning, Tenzin woke up with a clarity he had never known before. He knew that his journey was far from over, but he also knew that he had found the path he was meant to walk. He dedicated himself to the practice of the mantra, chanting it every day, and teaching it to the villagers who came to him seeking guidance. As the years passed, Tenzin became known as the monk who brought peace to the hearts of those who were lost. People from far and wide traveled to the mountain village to hear him speak, to learn the mantra that had transformed his life. And Tenzin, with his gentle smile and kind eyes, would tell them the story of his journey, of the old woman's words, and of the peace that could only be found within. In time, the village became a place of pilgrimage, where people came not just to visit the temple but to find themselves, to reconnect with the divine, and to experience the profound sense of peace that Tenzin had found. And as the temple bell rang out each morning, echoing through the valleys, it was a reminder to all who heard it that peace was not something to be chased but something to be discovered within the silence of their own hearts. Tenzin's story became a legend. A tale told by the villagers around the fire on cold winter nights. It was a story of transformation, of the power of intention, and of the deep, unbreakable connection between all living things. And as the stars glittered above, and the mountains stood watch over the village, the people would remember that the true power of the mantra, and indeed of life itself, lay not in the words, but in the love, the peace, and the unity it brought to their hearts. In the realm of metaphysical exploration, the concept of mantras as a means of harnessing divine power has been both revered and questioned. A mantra, as understood in the depths of spiritual philosophy, is not merely a sequence of words but a vibrational tool that aligns the human consciousness with the cosmos. The very notion that humans can interact with the divine, and perhaps even influence the universe through sound, opens up profound questions about the nature of existence, consciousness, and the interconnectedness of all things. In Tibetan Buddhism, mantras are regarded as the secret language of the universe, a medium through which the finite human mind can connect with the infinite. To the philosopher, this idea is not simply mystical but invites a contemplation of the very fabric of reality. What does it mean for words, sounds, or vibrations to hold power? How do these mantras function within the larger structure of the universe, and what implications does this have for our understanding of the self and the cosmos? The act of chanting a mantra is, in essence, an exercise in aligning one's consciousness with a higher order. It is a deliberate tuning of the mind, akin to a musician tuning an instrument before a performance. The mantra serves as the bridge between the human and the divine, a link that, when properly understood and practiced, can lead to profound transformations both within and without. But what is the philosophical foundation that underpins this practice? Central to this discussion is the concept of siddhis, or spiritual powers, which are said to arise from deep meditation and the disciplined use of mantras. Siddhis are extraordinary abilities that transcend the ordinary limits of human potential, suggesting that the mind, when fully awakened, can alter the very laws of nature. These powers, described in ancient texts, range from telepathy to levitation, and even to the manipulation of physical reality. From a philosophical standpoint, the existence of such abilities challenges our conventional understanding of reality. It suggests that the universe is not a static, mechanical entity but a dynamic, interconnected field of energy that can be influenced by consciousness. Yet, the use of mantras is not without its dangers. The duality of their potential is evident in the fear that surrounds them in certain cultures. Mantras, when used without proper understanding or with malevolent intent, can lead to negative consequences. This duality reflects a broader philosophical principle, the power of intention. In every action, including the chanting of mantras, it is the intention that shapes the outcome. The philosopher might ask, what does this say about the nature of good and evil, and the responsibility that comes with wielding such power? To fully grasp the implications of mantra practice, it is essential to explore the concept of non-duality in Buddhist thought. The state of Buddha, which practitioners of mantras aspire to reach, is one of profound non-duality, a realization that the self and the universe are not separate entities but are deeply interconnected. This state transcends the ego, the individual self, and opens the mind to the ultimate reality where distinctions between subject and object, self and other, dissolve. This philosophical perspective challenges the very foundation of how we perceive reality. If the self is not distinct from the universe, then the practice of chanting mantras is not an act of imposing one's will on the world but an act of harmonizing oneself with the natural flow of the cosmos. It becomes a form of participation in the unfolding of reality, where the individual consciousness merges with the universal consciousness. The mantra Om Mani Padme Hum is a profound example of this philosophical principle in practice. This mantra, associated with the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, encapsulates the essence of the entire Buddhist path. Each syllable of the mantra is a step on the journey towards enlightenment, a journey that involves the purification of body, speech, mind, desires, ignorance, and the self. From a philosophical perspective, this purification is not merely a cleansing of impurities but a process of realization, realizing the true nature of reality, which is inherently pure and perfect. The controversy surrounding mantras, particularly the fear of them as forms of black magic, further deepens the philosophical discourse. This fear arises from the recognition of the power that words and sounds can have, a power that can be used for both good and ill. Here, the philosopher is drawn to the concept of moral responsibility. If mantras have the potential to alter reality, then the practitioner bears a great responsibility for their use. The ethical implications are vast, touching on questions of intention, consequence, and the nature of moral action. In exploring the transformative power of mantras, one cannot ignore the concept of karma, the law of cause and effect that governs the universe in Buddhist philosophy. Karma suggests that every action, every thought, every word spoken, sets in motion a chain of events that will eventually return to the individual. The practice of chanting mantras, therefore, is not just about seeking immediate benefits or protections but about aligning oneself with the positive flow of karma. It is about setting in motion forces that will bring about long-term spiritual growth and harmony. This brings us to the story of an individual deeply influenced by the power of mantras. This person, initially skeptical of the mystical practices surrounding mantras, found themselves in a situation where their life was spiraling out of control. Facing numerous challenges and setbacks, they turned to the ancient wisdom of mantras. Seeking not just a solution to their problems but a deeper understanding of their place in the universe, the journey into mantra practice began with the discovery of a sacred object, a statue imbued with ancient mantras and spiritual energy. This object, found at a critical juncture in life, became a catalyst for profound personal transformation. The individual began to study the mantras inscribed within the statue, seeking guidance from a spiritual master who revealed the deeper meanings and practices associated with these sacred words. As the individual delved deeper into the practice, they began to experience changes not just in their external circumstances but within their own consciousness. The repetitive chanting of the mantras, initially seen as a ritualistic exercise, began to open doors to new levels of awareness and understanding. The philosophical implications of these experiences were profound. The individual came to realize that the power of the mantras was not in the words themselves but in the connection they facilitated between the individual and the divine. This connection brought about a radical shift in perspective. What was once seen as a world filled with random and chaotic events now appeared as a coherent and interconnected whole, where every action, every thought, and every word had meaning and consequence. The individual began to understand that their life was not a series of isolated events but a part of a larger cosmic order. This realization brought about a sense of peace and acceptance, a recognition that everything was unfolding as it should, in accordance with the laws of karma and the natural order of the universe. The practice of chanting mantras, particularly the Kim Tsang Tat Doa, became a daily ritual, a means of aligning oneself with the higher principles of the universe. Over time, the individual noticed significant changes in their life. The challenges and obstacles that once seemed insurmountable began to dissolve, and new opportunities for growth and fulfillment emerged. The transformative power of the mantras was not just about changing external circumstances but about changing the individual's relationship with the world. Philosophically, this transformation can be understood as a shift from a dualistic to a non-dualistic worldview. In dualism, the self is seen as separate from the world, an isolated entity struggling to assert control over external circumstances. In non-dualism, the self is seen as an integral part of the universe, interconnected with all things. The practice of chanting mantras facilitates this shift by breaking down the barriers between the self and the cosmos, allowing the individual to experience a sense of unity with the world. This sense of unity is further deepened by the realization that the universe is not a static entity but a dynamic and ever-changing process. The mantras, in this context, are not just tools for communication but instruments for participation in the cosmic dance. By chanting mantras, the individual is not merely asking for favors from the gods but is actively engaging in the process of creation and transformation. The mantras become a means of co-creating reality, a way of aligning one's intentions with the flow of the universe. The ethical implications of this practice are profound. If reality is co-created through the interaction of consciousness and cosmic energy, then the individual bears a great responsibility for the state of the world. The practice of mantras is not just about personal gain but about contributing to the overall harmony and balance of the universe. The philosopher is thus called to reflect on the nature of moral action, the consequences of intention, and the responsibility that comes with spiritual power. In conclusion, the use of mantras in Tibetan Buddhism and other spiritual traditions offers a rich field of exploration for the philosopher. It challenges our understanding of reality, consciousness, and the nature of existence. It invites us to consider the ethical implications of spiritual practice and the responsibility that comes with the power to influence the world. At its core, the practice of mantras is about more than just chanting words. It is about aligning oneself with the deeper truths of the universe, participating in the unfolding of reality, and contributing to the harmony of the cosmos. This philosophical perspective transforms the practice of mantras from a mystical ritual into a profound spiritual exercise. It is an exercise in self-awareness, in the cultivation of intention, and in the alignment of the individual with the universal. It is an invitation to transcend the limitations of the ego, to experience the interconnectedness of all things, and to participate in the ongoing creation of the world. In this sense, the mantra becomes a tool for not just spiritual growth but for philosophical inquiry, a means of exploring the deepest questions of existence and the nature of reality. As we continue to explore the power of mantras, we are reminded of the importance of approaching this practice with reverence, mindfulness, and a deep sense of responsibility. For in the chanting of these sacred words, we are not just uttering sounds but are participating in the ancient and ongoing dialogue between the human and the divine, between the self and the cosmos. It is a dialogue that has the power to transform not just the individual but the very fabric of reality itself.